Political analyst Gianno Caldwell, originally from Chicago, he has a documentary on Fox Nation called The New Battle for Chicago, the documentary highlighting the problems and solution to Chicago's gun violence. Gianno, great to see you again. I know your heart and soul is still in Chicago. You do a lot of work there to try to straighten things out. What is going wrong, and how do we make it better?
Well, you know what, David? I got to tell you, I am pissed the hell off with what I'm seeing in the city of Chicago. Just looking at the numbers briefly, last weekend, 65 people shot, 18 fatally, including a 1-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 17-year-old. 2 weeks ago, 104 people shot, 15 killed, including a 3-year-old and 4 teens. On May 31st, 18 people were killed in a single Sunday. In Chicago, there's been over 300 homicides this year. Guess how many homicides were there last year? 492 for the complete year, wow. Which means we're in June. We experienced coronavirus with people staying in the house, and still they're murdering people day after day. You have to ask yourself, when does this end? When the hell does this end? Do people care about their own lives? We're out here shouting Black Lives Matter, but do you care about your own life? Do you care about your brother or your sister's life? That's why it's so important, and I talked about this in my Fox Nation documentary when I went out and interviewed the gang members who told me that they were perpetrating the violence. Gang members who said to me, if you want to be the man, you're going to have to kill someone. People who didn't mind going on camera and talking about their exploits. I told them, it's time to start working with the police, and that's what's necessary, because if you don't start talking to the police now, whether you be in a gang or not in a gang, or you just know the people, then your family could be next.
Gianno, we're hearing exactly the opposite rhetoric from a lot of folks in the street saying we got to defund the police. Here in New York, we're in about an hour and a half, the city council is going to move to pull 25% of the budget away from the police.
Well, I can tell you one thing. The victims in Chicago aren't screaming defund the police. They're asking for more police. They're asking for responsible police in their communities, because at this point, they don't know if they're going to make it another week, because their grandparent could be shot. Their nephew could be shot. Their 1-year-old brother or son could be shot. This is the real pandemic in America. What's going on in the city of Chicago? What's going on in New York? What's going on in Philadelphia, where people are continuously murdered day after day? And it seems as though no one really cares. Let's talk about the leadership in Chicago really quick. The mayor of Chicago has failed, just like Rahm Emanuel did. President Trump has extended a hand and said, hey, I want to work with the local officials in Chicago. And it's been reported. You can look it up. You can Google it. They don't want his help because it's President Trump. If you have that kind of mentality, if you're playing politics with black bodies, then you're the problem.
But it's also
this failed leadership in
one
Chicago.
of the reasons I love the work that you do is because you don't focus on the top down. You go right into the neighborhoods and you say it's got to be the neighborhoods working on their own to fix things. You're not the only one who's seen this. There's a wonderful Somalian immigrant to the United States named Hirsi Ali, Ayaan Hirsi Ali. She wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal. It's a little long. I'm just going to read it to you and get your reaction to it. She said, time was Americans were renowned for their can-do, problem-solving attitude. Europeans, as Alexis de Tocqueville complained, were inclined to leave problems to central authorities in Paris or Berlin. Americans traditionally solve problems locally, sitting down together in town halls and voluntary associations. Some of that spirit still exists, even if we now have to meet on Zoom. But the old question, how can we figure this out, is threatened with replacement by, why can't the government figure this out for us? Doesn't it have to be done at a community level?
Government always will have a part to play. You pay taxes. You're supposed to have police. You're supposed to have program activity for the youth to keep them solid and involved in something. Absolutely. However, community must always be the solution. The family structure must always be the solution. Fathers in a home must always be the solution. And until we can realize and understand that, Black lives don't truly matter to all of us. And that's where the problem lies, and that's where the solution must come from. The family structure and doing for self.
And I got to tell you,
has a role to play.
Gianno, I got to tell you, I live in New York, and I do not trust government. I don't think I can rely on government to solve this problem. The only way it's going to be solved, and I'm talking about safety, the safety of people on the streets, is through community action, because the folks sitting in the city council, the mayor himself, the governor himself, I don't think they've got the answers.
Listen, let's have the conversation. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Gianno Caldwell. I want to hear solutions from people, and we must continue this conversation because, as I just noted, too many people are dying. We have to stop the bleeding, and we need to stop it now.
How can you get communities to operate on their own to save themselves? Because some of these communities are in danger of being wiped out entirely.
And that's where the conversation happens, where you have to work with the police. I cannot say this enough. We can talk about social programs. That's great. We can talk about so many other things. But if we're not willing to tell on who's doing the murdering, folks know in these communities who's doing it. It's not a secret. People know. They see the guns. These guys in my Fox Nation documentary, The New Battle for Chicago, they were willing to show me their guns, and they did show me their guns. People know. It's time to start talking.
Gianno Caldwell, always a pleasure to see you. You're doing God's work. Thank you, Gianno. God bless you.